Rian was walking alone in the cold desert night. The sky above him was dark, and only a few stars were shining through the dust. He held a small lamp in his hand, and his other hand rested on his horse's neck. He had been traveling for many hours without rest. His clothes were covered with sand, and his boots were heavy from the long journey. But he kept walking because he had no other choice. This desert was the only path that could take him home. The wind suddenly changed direction. It became sharp, cold, and strangely quiet. Rian felt something move in the darkness. His horse lifted its head and made a low, nervous sound. Rian stopped and listened carefully. At first, he thought it was only the wind. But then he heard it again, a weak cry, a sound so soft that most people would ignore it. But Rian was not like most people. He turned slowly and raised his lamp toward the rocks. The cry came again, painful, scared, and almost too soft to notice. Rian stepped closer. His heartbeat grew faster. His fingers tightened on the lamp. He pushed a few stones aside and froze. There, lying half covered in sand, was a young alien girl. She looked no older than 15 or 16. Her skin was pale blue, almost glowing. Strange silver patterns covered her arms like natural tattoos. Her clothes were torn, and her legs were bleeding. She was breathing, but barely. Her chest rose slowly, then fell even slower. Her eyes were half closed, filled with fear and pain. Rian knelt beside her. "Hey, can you hear me?" he asked softly. The girl opened her eyes just a little. When she saw his human face, she tried to move away, but she was too weak. Her hand trembled as she tried to lift it. She whispered something in her own language, a language Rian had never heard before. The words were broken, desperate. Her breath was getting colder. Her body was shaking. She was dying. Rian looked around the desert. No one else was there. No other sound. No sign of help. If he left her here, she would not survive the night. But saving her would be dangerous. Her people were known to be fierce warriors. If they found her with a human, they might kill him before asking questions. And still, Rian could not leave her. He took off his outer coat and gently wrapped it around her. Her skin was freezing. She winced in pain when he touched her, but she didn't resist. She looked at him with eyes full of fear. And something else. A tiny spark of hope. Rian lifted her carefully in his arms. She was lighter than he expected, like her bones were thinner than human bones. He carried her to his horse and placed her gently across the saddle. The horse shifted nervously, but did not move away. The girl grabbed Rian's wrist weakly. Her voice shivered. She said something again, a word that sounded like a warning. She pointed behind Rian, toward the darkness. Rian turned slowly. Nothing. Just empty desert. But the silence was wrong, too deep, too perfect. Even the wind felt scared to move. His horse stomped its hooves, ears pointed back. Something was out there, watching them. Rian didn't wait to find out what it was. He climbed onto the saddle behind the girl and pulled her gently closer so she wouldn't fall. He touched the horse's neck. "Go," he whispered. The horse took off across the sand, running fast, its hooves striking the ground like quick thunder. Behind them, the darkness seemed to move. Rian didn't look back. He didn't want to see what was following them. The girl's head rested against his chest. Her breathing grew weaker. She tried to speak again, but only a soft, broken sound came out. Rian could feel her shaking. She was close to death. The wind picked up, but it carried no sand. It carried only one thing. Footsteps. Soft, fast, many. Rian's heart pounded. Something was chasing them. Something silent. Something deadly. He held the girl close and pushed the horse harder. The night felt longer, the road endless, and the danger growing behind them, but he refused to stop, not while she was still breathing, not while he still had a chance to save her, and not while the desert shadows whispered of an unseen enemy drawing nearer with every heartbeat. Asterisk, the horse ran fast across the dark desert, but Rian could feel that something behind them was moving even faster. Every few seconds, he looked over his shoulder. He saw nothing, no shapes, no shadows, no movement. But he felt it. A presence. A weight in the air. Something was following them without leaving a trace. The alien girl in his arms trembled with every step the horse took. Her breathing was shallow and weak. Her skin was getting colder, as if the night was stealing the warmth from her body. Rian could feel her heartbeat slow, almost fading. He held her closer, trying to give her warmth through his own body heat. The desert wind whistled around them, but the girl's shivering was louder. Her fingers tightened on Rian's shirt, and she tried to lift her head. "It's okay," Rian whispered, even though he knew nothing about this night was okay. She opened her eyes slowly. They glowed faintly in the moonlight. She pointed weakly toward the darkness behind them. Rian followed her finger but still saw nothing. Then the horse suddenly jerked its head and neighed loudly. Its ears pointed straight back. Its legs moved faster on their own, as if fear had taken over. Rian knew the horse sensed something real, something dangerous. "Easy, boy." "Easy," he said, but the horse didn't slow down. The desert ground changed beneath them. Soft sand turned into hard, cracked earth. The lamp Rian had tied to his belt shook with each bounce. Ahead, he saw tall rock formations rising like dark towers. If he went through them, they would be trapped. If he stayed in the open desert, whatever was following them would catch them. He had no choice. He steered the horse toward the rock's dot as they entered the narrow passage between the stones. The world suddenly felt tighter, like the air itself was pressing in. The horse's hooves echoed strangely. Even the girl's breathing sounded louder. Rian felt sweat run down his back. He kept his hand on the girl's shoulder to steady her. A soft sound came from behind them, a whisper. Not wind, not animal, something alive. Rian's heart jumped. He looked back again, but the narrow path was empty. Only twisted rock walls and darkness. But he knew someone or something was there. The horse knew too. Its muscles tightened as it ran. The girl tried to speak. Her voice was dry and cracked. Shaw. She whispered. Rian didn't understand. "What are you trying to say?" She pointed again, her hand shaking violently now. Nah. The word meant nothing to Rian, but the fear in her eyes said everything. She wanted him to run faster, but then the horse stumbled. Its leg hit a loose rock. It slid forward, nearly collapsing. Rian held the girl tightly so she wouldn't fall. The horse caught itself at the last moment, but it was panting hard, its legs trembling. "It's too tired," Rian whispered. He looked back toward the open desert. The passage behind them was still empty, but the silence had turned heavy, almost painful. His instincts screamed they were not alone. The girl tugged at his shirt weakly. She tried to sit up but didn't have the strength. Her head fell against his shoulder again. Her skin had turned even colder, and the glowing patterns on her arms were fading. Like the light inside her was dying, Rian knew. The horse couldn't carry both of them much longer. He stopped the horse for the first time since their escape began. The animal stood shaking, breath coming in hard gasps. Rian placed his hand on its neck. "I know. You did your best." He slid off the saddle, holding the girl against his chest. She weighed almost nothing in his arms. He could feel her heartbeat thin, irregular. "Come on," he whispered to her. He tried to place her back in the saddle, but her eyes widened in fear. She grabbed his wrist. "No alone," she said in a weak, broken voice. "It's okay. I'm staying with you." But she shook her head slowly. Tears formed in her glowing eyes. She tried to say more words, but her voice faded before she could finish. The horse suddenly raised its head and stared back into the darkness. Its ears twitched. Its body tensed. Rian followed its gaze. This time, he saw movement, not a shape, not a shadow. Something faster than either, like a ripple in the air. A silent ripple. Rian felt cold run through his entire body. Whatever was following them was close. Very close. He tightened his grip on the girl. "We have to keep moving," he said. But deep inside, he knew the truth. They were no longer running through enemy territory. They were running inside it, and the enemy had finally found them. The air around Rian felt heavier with every second. The quiet ripple he saw in the darkness did not disappear. It was still there, moving closer, floating like a breath of cold air. The horse felt it too. Its legs shook, and its ears pressed flat against its head. It looked ready to bolt again, but Rian knew it did not have the strength left. The girl in his arms was fading fast. Her skin had turned almost white blue. The glowing patterns along her arms were now dim like dying embers. Her eyes drifted open and closed as if she was fighting sleep. The dangerous kind of sleep that comes before death. Rian touched her face gently. "Stay awake," he whispered. She blinked slowly. Her lips moved. She whispered the same word again, "Shaina," this time with tears in her eyes. She blinked slowly. Her lips moved. She whispered the same word again, "Shaina," this time with tears in her eyes. He still didn't understand it. Was it a name? A place? A warning? But she said it like it mattered more than her own life. The ripple in the darkness suddenly vanished. Rian's heart dropped. He knew this kind of silence. It was the silence before something attacked. The horse reared back in fear, almost throwing the girl. Rian held her tight. "Easy, easy." But the horse's eyes were wide, its chest rising and falling like it had been running for hours. It couldn't take more. And that's when Rian made the hardest choice of his life. He realized the horse would not survive carrying both of them any farther. It was exhausted, shaking, nearly collapsing. The girl was dying. If he didn't get her to safety soon, she would be gone forever. He looked at his old companion, his only friend left in this harsh desert. "I'm sorry," Rian whispered. He slowly placed the girl back on the saddle. She tried to protest. She shook her head weakly, tears forming. She grabbed his sleeve, begging him not to leave her alone. "I'm not leaving you," Rian said. "I'm saving you." Her grip loosened, but her eyes stayed wide with fear. Rian tied her to the saddle gently so she wouldn't fall. Her small hands rested on the horse's mane. She looked at him, confused and scared. The ripple returned closer, this time like air, bending in front of unseen footsteps. Rian knew they were out of time. He slapped the horse's side. "Go! Run!" The horse hesitated for one heartbreaking moment. It looked at Rian with tired, loyal eyes, then turned and began running across the desert, carrying the dying alien girl away from the danger. Rian stood alone now. He took a deep breath. His boots sank into the cold sand. The air around him tightened like an invisible rope. His mind screamed at him to run, but he didn't move. There was no point. The horse was faster than he was. If the creature or creatures wanted prey, they would have to catch him first. He hoped they wanted the stronger target and not the girl. The ripple appeared again. This time right behind a rock only a few steps away. Then another ripple on the opposite side, and another, 3, maybe more. Rian slowly stepped backward, keeping his eyes on the moving distortions. The desert light grew pale as dawn approached. The sky turned from black to dark blue, giving just enough light to show faint outlines of the ripple shapes bending the air around them. They moved like shadows, wearing cloaks of invisibility. Rian swallowed hard. "Come on then," he whispered to the empty air. "If you're going to kill me, do it fast." The nearest ripple stopped. A pair of glowing white eyes appeared inside it, floating, watching, full of cold intelligence. Rian froze. The eyes blinked once, then disappeared as quickly as they appeared. The ripples moved again, faster this time. Rian reached for a nearby stone, the only weapon he had left. His hand shook, but he did not drop it. One ripple suddenly rushed at him, then stopped completely. The desert had gone, silent again. Rian heard only his own breathing. The ripples slowly backed away from him and turned toward the direction the horse had run. They paused, as if listening. Then without warning, they vanished like smoke blown out by the wind. Rian collapsed to his knees. His heart was racing. His breaths came short and sharp. The creatures had let him live, but why? Slowly, the light of dawn began to paint the desert gold. Rian looked at the hoofprints leading away from him. The horse was fast, but could it outrun those things? Was the girl still alive? He forced himself to stand. His legs were shaking, but he followed the horse's tracks step by step, refusing to give up because he had given away everything he owned: his horse, his survival, his safety for one dying alien girl. And if she died now, his sacrifice would mean nothing. He whispered into the desert wind, "Hold on. Just hold on." And he began walking toward the rising sun, not knowing that the true danger and the true revelation was waiting for him at dawn. Rian walked through the cold desert as the first thin line of dawn touched the sky. His legs felt heavy, and his throat burned with every breath. He had been awake all night, running, fighting fear, and giving up his only horse. Now he moved slowly, following the hoofprints in the sand. Each step hurt, but his mind kept repeating the same thought: she has to survive. She has to. The desert looked different in the early light. The shadows were long and stretched across the sand like dark fingers. The wind was strangely still. Even the sand dunes seemed to be holding their breath. Something about the silence didn't feel natural. Rian stopped. He listened. Nothing. Not the sound of a bird. Not the whisper of the wind. Not even the shifting of sand. Just silence, complete, heavy, unnatural silence. He took another step. The sound of his own foot hitting the sand echoed too loudly. It felt wrong, like he had stepped inside a place the world wasn't supposed to hear. Rian followed the horse's tracks around a tall dune. His heartbeat quickened when he saw something in the distance. Hoofprints stopped abruptly. The sand around them was disturbed, like many feet had walked there. But they weren't human footprints, and they weren't animal prints either. They were too sharp, too perfect, too uniform, as if carved, not stepped. Rian crouched and touched one of the prints. The sand was cold, much colder than the rest of the desert. He pulled his hand back quickly. Whoever made these prints had been here only moments ago. He looked up. Then he froze. Shape stood on the dunes ahead, tall, unmoving, and silent. In the golden light of dawn, they looked like statues carved from metal. But then one of them shifted slightly, and the sun glinted off armor that caught the light like polished silver. Rian felt his breath stop. There were 6 of them. 6 tall alien warriors, each wearing dark, curved armor that hugged their bodies like living metal. Their helmets were pointed at the top, and long capes flowed behind them without a breath of wind. In their hands, they held strange weapons, blades that bent like crescent moons. Their presence was terrifying because they didn't breathe. They didn't move. They didn't speak. They just stared at him. Rian didn't dare move. He wasn't even sure if they saw him as a threat or prey. He slowly raised his hands, showing he had no weapon. "I'm not here to fight," he said quietly, though his voice shook. The warriors didn't react. Then one of them stepped forward, soundless, smooth, like sliding shadow instead of stepping. This warrior was taller than the rest. Her armor had a different pattern, a finer, sharper design etched into it. She stopped only a few feet away from Rian. The sun rose higher, and for the first time, he saw her face. Her helmet opened silently, folding back like petals of a black flower. Underneath it, her face was pale blue like the dying girl's. Her eyes were bright silver and cold as moonlight. She studied Rian with no expression. Rian swallowed. "I helped her," he said softly. Your sister. She was dying." The warrior's eyes narrowed slightly, but her expression did not change. She tilted her head, looking at him like she was examining an unfamiliar creature. The other warriors stepped closer. Their movements were synchronized, silent, elegant, deadly. Rian backed away without meaning to. The sand felt soft beneath his feet, ready to give way. The tall warrior lifted her hand. Rian froze. With a sharp motion, she pointed her curved blade at his chest. Rian held his breath. He didn't dare move. The blade gleamed in the morning light. One wrong step and she would cut through him effortlessly. Behind her, the other warriors formed a half circle. Their presence alone was enough to make Rian's skin crawl. He felt surrounded by shadows wearing bodies. The leader spoke for the first time. Her voice was soft, almost gentle, but carried a sharp edge. "Why? Did you touch her?" Rian's heart hammered. He understood now they weren't only warriors. They were guardians. And he had touched someone very important. "I didn't want her to die," Rian said quietly. "I gave her my horse. I did everything I could." The warrior stared at him for a long moment. Then she lowered her blade. Rian exhaled shakily. Relief washing through him, but only for a second, because behind the warriors, something moved. A small figure limped toward them. Supported by two warriors. It was the alien girl. Alive. And when she looked at Rian, her eyes filled with tears, not of fear this time, but of something else. Recognition. Hope. And something even stronger. A truth she had been trying to tell him since the night he saved her. The alien girl walked slowly toward Rian, supported by two warriors on each side. Her steps were weak, but her eyes were open now, brighter, clearer, filled with life that had almost left her hours ago. Dawn light touched her skin, and the silver patterns on her arms glowed faintly again, as if the warmth of morning was bringing her back to the world. Rian felt relief rush through him. She was alive. Somehow she had survived the night. But the relief lasted only a heartbeat, because the warriors surrounding him did not move, did not soften, did not blink. Their blades still hung at dangerous angles by their sides. The tall leader, the one who had pointed her weapon at Rian's chest, turned to look at the girl. Her silver eyes were sharp but unreadable. The girl whispered something in her language. Her voice was so soft Rian barely heard it. The leader listened with stillness that made the air feel colder. When the girl finished, the leader's gaze returned to Rian. Her eyes were harder now. The warriors closed in around him. Rian's breath caught. His hands lifted instinctively, slow, open, showing he had no weapon. He knew he stood between life and death. The warriors moved with a grace that felt unnatural. Not a single footstep made a sound. Their armor did not clink. Their blades did not scrape. They were trained to move like shadows. The girl spoke again, louder this time, but her voice cracked. She reached out toward Rian, but the two warriors supporting her held her arms gently, not allowing her to walk forward. The leader raised her hand. The warriors froze in place. Then the leader walked toward Rian again, silent, tall, terrifying. She stopped close enough that Rian could feel the cold air around her armor. Her silver eyes scanned his face, his clothes, the empty belt where his knife should have been, the sand on his boots. She was studying him as if she could read his whole story from the marks on his body. "You," she said quietly, "are human." Rian nodded. "Yes," her jaw tightened. "Humans do not cross this desert." "I was traveling home," Rian said. "Humans do not help our kind." Rian looked at the girl. She was dying. "I couldn't leave her." The leader stepped closer, so close her shadow fell over him. "Many would have left her. Many would have feared us. Why did you not?" Rian swallowed. His voice was low, but steady. Because she was alone, afraid, hurt. Doesn't matter what species she is, someone dying in front of you. You help them. The warriors murmured softly, a sound like cold wind moving between stones. They were speaking in their own language, quiet, fast, intense. Rian didn't know if they were angry or surprised. The leader kept her eyes on him. You gave her your mount, she said. Your only means of survival. Yes, Rian answered. That horse was your life. It was, he said. And you chose to let it go? Rian nodded slowly. To save hers. The leader said nothing for a long moment. Her silver eyes softened, but only for a heartbeat before her. Expression turned cold again. Suddenly she lifted her blade. Rian tensed, but she didn't strike. Instead, she placed the curved blade against her own chest. Every warrior behind her lowered their head in silence. Rian blinked, confused. Was this some kind of ritual? The leader spoke in a deep, steady voice. A life for a life. The law of our clan. She lowered the blade until the tip touched the sand. Then she stepped aside. The girl was gently pushed forward by her sisters. She stumbled toward Rian, her weak steps leaving shallow marks in the sand. She raised one trembling hand, fingers shaking. Rian stepped toward her just as she collapsed. He caught her before she fell. The warriors watched the moment carefully, the air thick with judgment. The girl leaned her forehead against Rian's chest. Her voice trembled as she whispered, He saved me. No fear, no harm. Only kindness. One of the warriors hissed softly. Angry or shocked, Rian couldn't tell which. The leader stepped forward and spoke in their language. Her voice was firm, commanding. The murmuring stopped instantly. The warriors stood straight again, their discipline restoring like a switch had been flipped. Then the leader turned to Rian. Her expression was different now, not soft, but no longer hostile. You, she said, will come with us. It wasn't a request. And it wasn't a threat. It was a judgment, a decision, a sentence he didn't understand yet. But the way the warriors formed around him, silent, protective, unbreakable, made one thing clear. His fate was now tied to theirs, and the desert was only the beginning. Rian walked between the warriors in complete silence. They moved like ghosts around him, tall, sharp, and alert. Their armor made no noise. Their steps left no marks in the sand. Even their breathing could not be heard. It felt like he was walking with shadows instead of living beings. The girl he had saved walked beside him, supported gently by two of her sisters. Her legs were still shaking, and sometimes her eyes closed for a moment before she forced them open again. But Rian could see the color slowly returning to her skin. The glowing silver patterns on her arms were stronger now, brighter than before. It was like the rising sun was healing her. They walked toward a group of tall rocks shaped like a half circle. The place felt sacred. Rian sensed it the moment they approached. The sand here was smoother, cleaner, and colder. As if untouched by the desert wind, the warriors stopped. The leader raised her hand. The entire group froze instantly. Like a statue carved in stone, the girl stepped forward, still holding her side in pain. Her voice was soft, but it carried through the silent morning air. Let me speak. The leader nodded. Rian watched the girl struggle to stand straight. Her legs trembled, but her eyes held a strength that didn't match her weak body. She looked at Rian first, then at her sisters. She took a deep breath. When the storm took me away, she began, I thought it was the end. Her voice cracked. One of the warriors stepped closer, but the girl raised her hand to stop her. I fell. Far, I crawled. I cried for help. Her throat tightened, but no one came. I thought my sisters would find only my bones. The warriors lowered their heads, ashamed, but instead, she turned her glowing eyes toward Rian. A human found me. The warriors stiffened, but she continued. A human who had no reason to help me. A human who walked alone in our land. A human who should have feared us. Her voice grew stronger. But he saw me dying. And he lifted me. He wrapped me in his coat. He shared his warmth. He gave me his water. He held me when I could no longer move. Rian felt heat rise in his chest. He hadn't done it for praise. He had done it because he couldn't watch someone die. But the girl was not finished. She pointed at the silent warriors behind her. And when danger followed us, when shadows hunted us, when his horse could no longer carry both of us, she stopped. Her eyes filled with tears. He gave me the horse, she whispered. His only horse. His only hope. His only friend. Some warriors gasped quietly. Others clenched their fists. The leader's eyes narrowed, studying Rian deeper. The girl took a weak step toward him. Her voice softened. He stayed behind, knowing he would be hunted, knowing he might die alone in the dark. And why? She touched her chest lightly, because he wanted a stranger to live. The word stranger echoed between the rocks like a truth carried on the wind. The leader stepped closer to the girl. "Are you certain?" she asked softly. The girl nodded and spoke with surprising firmness. "I owe him my life." The warriors exchanged looks. Their cold silver eyes flickered with confusion, respect, fear, and something Rian couldn't understand. The leader turned toward him. Her face was calmer now, but her voice held weight. "You have changed the fate of our sister. And by saving her, you have changed us." Rian didn't know what that meant. "I only did what any good person would." "No," the leader interrupted. "Most would have walked away." The girl reached out suddenly and grabbed Rian's hand. Her fingers were small, but her grip was strong. She looked at her sisters and spoke in a language Rian didn't understand. Her tone was pleading, urgent, emotional. The warriors listened in complete silence. When she finished, the leader took a long breath and faced Rian. She lifted her blade again. Rian's heart jumped, but she did not raise it in anger. She placed the tip of the blade gently against her own shoulder and spoke. "By our law, a life repaid demands a bond." She lowered the blade toward him. "You saved her. Now she claims you." Rian blinked in confusion. "Claims me for what?" The girl stepped beside him, still holding his hand. "For protection," she whispered. "For honor." She looked up into his eyes. "And for truth." The leader nodded. "You are now tied to our clan. Her fate is yours. Your fate is hers." Rian felt the world shift beneath his feet. He had saved a life. And now that life had changed everything he knew, Rian stood frozen, unsure if he should step back or step closer. The girl, still weak, still trembling, held his hand like it was the only thing keeping her alive. Her silver eyes glowed in the dawn light, filled with worry and hope at the same time. Around them, the alien warrior sisters formed a perfect circle. They were silent as statues. Their armor caught the rising sun, shining like a ring of sharp blades around him. The leader stepped forward. Her long shadow stretched across the sand until it touched Rian's feet. "You are bound to her now," the leader said. "By her choice. By her need. By the law of survival." Rian swallowed. "I don't understand your laws." "You will," she replied. "In time." The warriors parted slightly so the girl could stand fully beside him. She released his hand only long enough to place it on her chest over the glowing patterns. "Our people," she said softly, "do not choose humans. Never humans. But you." Her voice shook. "You did what no sister could. You saved me without fear." Rian shook his head gently. "I didn't save you because I wanted a reward. I just couldn't leave you behind." Her eyes softened further. "That is why your choice matters." The leader raised her curved blade high. Its surface caught the sunlight and cast a thin, glowing line across the sand. Rian stiffened. He had seen her lift that blade before against him, but this time. She turned the blade toward the sky. The circle of warriors dropped to one knee only. Rian and the girl remained standing. The leader spoke in a deep voice that echoed against the rock walls. By dawn's witness, by the blade's truth, and by the desert's silence, this human is accepted. Rian blinked. Accepted? The leader lowered the blade and pointed it toward him, not to threaten but to honor. You gave your mount. You risked your life. You kept our sister breathing when we could not find her. Her silver eyes softened for the first time. You have earned the right to walk with us. No human has ever been given this right. The warriors rose. Their faces remained calm, but their eyes glimmered with something like respect or perhaps awe. The girl took Rian's hand again, her fingers warmer now. You saved me, she whispered. But it was not just my life you protected. Rian frowned slightly. What do you mean? She took a shaky breath. I am not an ordinary girl. The leader stepped beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder. She is next in line to inherit leadership of our clan, the leader said. She is of royal blood. Rian's heart almost stopped. He looked at the weak, fragile girl beside him, the girl he thought was just lost, hurt, alone. Royal blood. He understood why the warriors had been so fierce, so silent, so ready to kill. He had held the life of their future leader in his arms without knowing it. I didn't know, Rian whispered. That, the girl said gently, is what made your act pure. The leader nodded. Those who help royalty for power are poison. But you helped without knowing her worth. That makes your kindness true. A warm wind crossed the desert, lifting the sand gently around their feet. The warriors lifted their chins as if feeling a blessing from the morning itself. The leader continued, because you saved her, you are now part of our oath. Any who harm you, harm us. Any who hunt you, face our blades. Rian felt the weight of her words. So, what happens now? The girl stepped close enough that he could feel her breath. Now, she said softly, you walk with us. You learn our ways. You live under our protection. And one day, she paused, her cheeks glowing faintly. One day, I will repay your kindness in a way my people honor most. Rian didn't know what that meant. But he saw something warm and shy in her expression, something she wasn't ready to explain yet. The leader signaled. The warriors formed two lines, creating a path between them. Their armor gleamed like moonlit water. You walk with us, human, the leader said. Not as a prisoner, not as prey. She bowed her head, a gesture Rian had never seen from her. But as a brother. The word echoed inside Rian's chest. The girl squeezed his hand. Come, she whispered. Rian took a breath and stepped forward. As he passed through the warrior lines, every alien sister lowered her weapon in a silent honor gesture. Their silver eyes followed him, not with suspicion anymore, but with respect. He had entered the desert as a tired traveler with only a horse. Now the horse was gone. But in its place, he had gained something far greater, a clan, a bond, and a destiny he never expected. The sun rose fully behind him, casting long shadows of warrior sisters at his side. Rian walked with them into the new day, no longer alone.